US President Donald Trump has now said that target date to reopen the economy is as soon as possible, even as the coronavirus death toll in the country is nearing 62,000. Trump made his plans clear in a roundtable with industry executives at the White House. He said that Americans want lockdown restrictions to be lifted soon. Listen in to what the US President said.
Well, yeah, its target date is as soon as possible. Some states are already open. I mean, they're opening up rapidly. We have a number of them opening up on Monday. We have a number of them opening up sooner than that, as you know, or at least partially opening. Some of them even with a very strong bent toward opening, they're opening up where they'll open a certain amount here, restaurants at 25%, then going to 50%, then ultimately we want to be back to where we're 100%.
The U.S. economy has suffered its most severe contraction since the 2008 recession. According to official figures, the world's largest economy sank at an annual rate of 4.8%. In order to have a complete reopening, the U.S. president refused to extend social distancing guidelines.
But maybe, Mr. President,
I think a way of saying it, they'll be fading out because now the governors are doing it. I've had many calls from governors, Governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, and many governors, Tennessee, Arkansas. We're speaking to a lot of different people, and they're explaining what they're doing, and I am very much in favor of what they're doing. They're getting it going, and we're opening our country again.
In fact, Trump is even planning a trip. The U.S. president said that he will be visiting Arizona next week. He added that he plans to hold massive rallies in jam-packed stadiums.
I haven't been doing this that long, so 4 years ago I campaigning for president. And we are now building that beautiful wall. But for 45 years, they've been trying to get it. I think so. I think I'm going to Arizona next week. And we look forward to that. And I'm going to, I hope, Ohio very soon. And we're going to start to move around. And hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll have some massive rallies and people will be sitting next to each other. I can't imagine a rally where you have every fourth seat full. Every 6 seats are empty for every one that you have full. That wouldn't look too good. No, I hope that we're going to be able to do some good old-fashioned 25,000 person rallies where everyone's going wild because they love our country.
So there you have it. The President of the United States all set to fade social distancing at a time when the United States has again faced a fresh spike in the number of deaths. Remember, Sunday and Monday had witnessed a lowering of death toll, but again, it was on Wednesday that a fresh spike has been observed. For more details and a sense of ground zero, let's quickly go across to our correspondent Jagrati Dave, who's joining me live from Washington, D.C. as she brings us regular updates from Washington. Jagrati, a very warm welcome to you. Now, let me begin by asking you about the economy. Now, the Commerce Department has announced that the U.S. economy has shrunk by 4.8%, and that perhaps explains why the president wants to fade social distancing guidelines ASAP. There's a new spike in the number of deaths. At the same time, polls are indicating that Americans are not even ready for the economy to reopen. Is the president's decision-making also being influenced by business leaders who happen to be part of his response team? All right, we seem to have lost Jagrati's audio due to some technical glitch, but we will continue to bring you Jagrati at the moment as we're trying to reconnect. But right now, the United States is standing at a very crucial juncture where they are contemplating easing the lockdown despite a rise in the number of cases, despite a continuous rise. And it's also important to note that Donald Trump continues to chase the World Health Organization and China. Now, the United States president is not mincing any words against China. He has said that Beijing wants him to lose his re-election bid. That's what the U.S. president commented in an interview that he gave to a news agency at the Oval Office. Trump said that China's handling of coronavirus is proof it will do anything it can to have him lose the 2020 presidential polls. He says, and I quote, "China will do anything that it can to have me lose my re-election race. There are many things I can do. We are looking for what happened." Now, Trump added that China wants his Democratic rival Joe Biden to become the president to ease the pressure Trump has placed on Beijing over trade issues. Now, remember, Trump has been facing a lot of flack for his administration's response to the coronavirus, which has claimed over 61,000 lives in the United States. Trump did not stop there. The US president also said that he is mulling punitive action against the World Health Organization for being biased towards China. Listen in to what the US president said.
Mr. President, what are you hoping to learn about China and the World Health Organization with this investigation you commissioned with the intelligence community?
Right, it's coming in, and I'm getting pieces already, and we're not happy about it. And we are by far the largest contributor to WHO, World Health, and they misled us. I don't know. They must have known more than they knew, because they came after what other people knew that weren't even involved. We knew things that they didn't know, and either they didn't know or they didn't tell us, or right now they're literally a pipe organ for China. That's the way I view it. So we're seeing, and we're looking, and we're watching, and again, we give $500 million. We have over the years from 400 to 500 for a long time, for many years, and China is giving $38 million, and yet they seem to work for China. And they should have been in there early. They should have known what was going on, and they should have been able to stop it. We talk about stopping the spread or stopping the embers. That could have been stopped there.
So there you have it. That's the big revelation coming in from the United States this hour, that Donald Trump is blaming China, and he has claimed that China doesn't want Trump to be re-elected as the president. At the same time, he has also announced that there will be punitive recommendations being taken against the World Health Organization. Ever since the pandemic has surfaced, Donald Trump has been all guns blazing as far as China and the WHO are concerned. He has been claiming that he's also been very disapproving of how the WHO did not sound the alarm on time. Now, it's important to note that it's a very tense moment for the US president, because the death toll has surpassed 60,000. Can the US president at the moment afford to ease these lockdowns? For more details, let's quickly go across to Jagrati Dave, who's joining me again from Washington, D.C. Finally, Jagrati, we have you there. Jagrati, the Commerce Department has announced that the U.S. economy has shrunk by 4.8%, and that perhaps explains why the president wants to face social distancing guidelines. There's a new spike at the same time in the number of deaths. Polls are also indicating that Americans are not even ready for the economy to reopen. Is the president's decision-making also being influenced by business leaders who happen to be part of his response team?
So business leaders have in the past actually expressed concerns about reopening before there's adequate testing for coronavirus to ensure that employees can go back to work safely. But of course, you look at the figures that are out, almost 26 million people filing for unemployment, businesses having to close down, and the economy, the US economy, contracting by 4.8%, the sharpest since the 2008 recession. So it's clear that the economy is getting hurt quite significantly by the stay-at-home orders and the closure of the economy, and this is something that is concerning to people for their livelihoods. And of course, the economy was something that the president was very proud of for under his tenure. He used it as an example of why people should vote for him. So not only for people's jobs, but for one eye to the election. This is something that the president is looking at, and this is one of the reasons why many of his critics are saying that he is thinking more about the election when it comes to reopening the economy, and this disjunct between the federal government and the states. The onus seems to be on the states to issue the guidance for when they reopen, when they release those stay-at-home orders. The president is clearly raring to go with the reopening of the economy.
Right. At the same time, since you spoke about the elections, in an interview to Reuters, President Donald Trump has also stated that China wants him to lose re-election, even though China has a lot of answering to do, which cannot be denied. Isn't Donald Trump's comment a reflection of his misplaced priorities?
Well, in terms of the US's relationship with China, it's been a rocky one for the last 2 years while they've been negotiating a trade deal. Again, this is something that the president's critics have said, that the president's priorities have been misplaced from the very beginning. The way that they see him as having underplayed the severity of the crisis by talking up the economy whilst the outbreak was worsening in the early stages here in the United States. The president, however, will point to measures such as the travel ban that he talks so much about, saying that he was one of the first people to implement these travel restrictions on China, and then on Europe, and then on Britain and Ireland. Of course, other countries imposed travel restrictions much earlier than the president did. But this is the balance that the president is having to fight here, and his critics will see it in the way that you have suggested.
And indeed, a very tricky balance. Now, calling them a pipe organ for China, President Trump is also hoping for punitive recommendations against the World Health Organization. What could this translate into for the global health body?
Well, the World Health Organization is currently, most people globally will agree, is important in fighting, being on the front line of fighting the pandemic. The president, his claims are that the World Health Organization is China-centric. He and Republicans accused the World Health Organization and China of covering up the outbreak in the initial stages. So they will be looking, their investigations, so there are some reports suggest, is looking at intelligence to find out communication of what was known when. But the global community is mostly united in saying that actually now is not the time to be doing that kind of investigation. Now is the time to be uniting and fighting to control the pandemic around the world.
To go, Jagriti, Dr. Fauci has expressed hopes about the drug remdesivir. Share more details about the information Dr. Fauci shared at the press brief and also about the drug.
So the drug that Dr. Fauci was talking about was clinical trials. It's a drug that's made by a US manufacturer called Gilead Sciences, and he said that he was very optimistic about the prospects for this drug. It's called remdesivir, and it is early studies from clinical trials suggest that the people who were given this drug recovered faster by 31% compared to those who were just given a placebo. And Dr. Fauci said that what's proven is that a drug can block this virus. He said that it will become the standard of care for the treatment of COVID-19, but he urged caution because he said that it wasn't a knockout 100% for the virus. While the figure of 31%, it doesn't seem like much, but he was optimistic about the drug going forward. Now, this study, the clinical trial that was done by the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases, does need to be peer reviewed. It is in the early stages, and in the absence of a proven drug, nonetheless, the US Food and Drug Administration is saying that they are going to look into the emergency use of this drug to treat those patients who really need it.
All right, let's hope that they actually manage to find success as far as remdesivir is concerned. On that note, thank you so much, Jagriti, for coming on this newscast and sharing all those details.